the board for what's next, I guess. The pilot agreement.
Yes.
And the decommissioning agreement. So, again, typically what we see is a board will vote to approve the amount of the pilot. And then they will vote it subject to village council's approval of, the legal documents, which Will Frank has. Similarly, the decommissioning agreement, we've submitted a decommissioning cost estimate that would go into the agreement. This is the amount of security we would put up with the village in the form of a letter of credit or bond or something. So typically the board would vote to approve that amount, subject to Will's review of the legal document that's underlying it. So I don't want to speak for you, but you could take the vote on those two items, or, we could come back and tackle that stuff another time.
Yeah, we're gonna come back.
Okay.
Now, our next scheduled meeting is the 20th of November.
Okay.
So,
And then the final item I just wanted to raise are, as we come in the accessway there, there are 2 easements that the village holds across Jim's property. And we would simply ask you to sign a crossing agreement that we could access and bring power across those easements. One is a sewer line easement for a sewer that has never been installed, that runs way back.
that's where the toll booth is going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So that sewer runs way back to the mobile home park
Yes.
to the east, but again, there's no line there. And then the other is a water line easement right along the frontage with the state highway.
That's right.
That is an active water line.
Yeah. Okay,
It's on the east side of the highway as far as the surveyor information we have and the title information. So we are drafting one agreement that we would send to
Encompass
you
both of them.
and Will that covers both of these crossings, and it's simply for our access and to bring the power across.
okay. So would that be in our hands for the November 28th?
Yeah, I hope so, yeah. The draft is prepared, we're finalizing the actual boundaries of the areas we want permission to cross. And so we'll have that, I should be submitting that to Will hopefully by the end of this week. And that's just more of a heads up of, business coming.
So will you be joining us on November 20th, or?
Yeah, there's a good chance of that, I
Okay.
think, yeah, just to kind
We
of.
love having you. It's-
I think it helps just to,
Yes, it does.
keep all the ducks in a row. So, again, thank you.
Thank
all
you
for
very
your time.
much.
It's been nice working with you for the past, year and change on this, so very much
I
appreciated.
had to bring up the year, you're just gonna say the change. But
It's our long-standing history together, so.
all right. Next on the agenda, Independent Telephone Communications Corporation. Tim?
Sorry, I wasn't, I wasn't really prepared to speak. I thought you were going to be proposing,
Thank you.
So in front of, we've had an opportunity, ITC is your current incumbent provider of communication services here at the town hall, as well as the police department. We've been doing it probably the last decade or so. Tim and I are both part of the community here. Both of our kids and such go to school and within Washingtonville. But what we had an opportunity to do, and Tim has done, is really taking a snapshot of what we currently have. We've got manufactured discontinued equipment at PD. We got manufactured discontinued equipment here. So Tim has taken it upon himself to put together a proposal that kind of takes a snapshot of our current investment associated with the expenses from Frontier, Spectrum, and your current maintenance agreements at both locations, and what would be the investment to the village to upgrade the system to something new. And when we say new, not necessarily just a replacement of what we have, but more of an enhancement. A single system geographically dispersed that allows for intercom communication between here, PD, DPW, and water. So one system, we can transfer, have voicemail, be a single system across all of those locations. So we put together a kind of a draft proposal to the mayor and had an opportunity to present some of that material to him. In the end, in our overall snapshot in our draft, the overall investment is about $200 a month more than we're paying today to get us into all new equipment. at those 3 locations and establish that single system geographically dispersed. That's a kind of a 20,000 foot view, but that's what we're looking to try to accomplish.
And all of our phones will be into one bill.
Yeah, so as
Right
far as,
now, we have a lot of phone line, we even have AT&T.
Yeah.
Were you able to find that many phone lines?
Yeah, looks like AT&T long distance is covering a bunch of phone lines that you already covered under long distance with Frontier.
so that, some additional savings that we didn't have in our draft proposal to the tune of about $80, which makes that investment now down to about $120 a month for all new equipment and services. So to answer your question, the answer is, it's not a one clean bill. We still have services from, for example, Spectrum. Spectrum is our internet provider in a lot of these locations, and you will still receive a Spectrum bill. In the PD department, initially, they have about 4 lines that are utilized from Frontier that are currently recorded, and in our proposal, we left them as is, and they'll be a part of the system. We didn't want to disrupt without conversations of how they want to accomplish that. We may be able to accomplish that under our platform, but we left those 4 lines behind so you can still record them in the method that you're most familiar with. So that would be still a Frontier bill. But the remaining bills would come from one of 2 providers. We have an underwriter that provides all the equipment, and that is Balboa Capital. That's basically a number that's written each and every month that provides all the equipment and all of our services. And then you have one other bill from a carrier called Clearfly. Clearfly is your local long distance. It's fixed, unlimited local long distance, and faxing as well. So we still have, unfortunately, a few bills, but it's a lot cleaner than what it is we have today. Unfortunately, as Tim was going through, a lot of the bills today are individual to each individual line, so you can imagine how many bills there has to be audited as you go through this. So it'll be a lot more combined, but it will be itemized so you can kind of see what each department has.
One of the highlights of this system is that the voicemail goes to email, correct? So, you say, well, I didn't get the phone call, but you read your email.
So the technology is drastically different than we're accustomed to. And one feature he's mentioning is the ability to get our email, our voicemail messages delivered to our email account. But beyond that is that the service itself doesn't necessarily reside within the building. So when we think about disasters, when we have the floods, and we have the ice storms and those types of things, and our taxpayers are trying to call the village, today it can be a ring no answer if the systems aren't actually working or functioning. Tomorrow, we're still able to answer the call, and we're still able to change that greeting and modify to get information out to the taxpayers to say, hey, what's going on? Additionally, people that are a part of the system can literally run an application on their mobile device to allow them to make and receive phone calls on behalf of the village, even if the village isn't even available. We still have to have cell service or some sort of medium to connect to the system. But someone in the police department could literally make and receive phone calls as though they're in their office, even though they're not even in the county. So some truly different features and services that you wouldn't normally have with a traditional system. We've successfully deployed. First of all, we've been doing this for many years. We're in business for now almost 30. But we have a lot of municipalities. Some of the municipalities that are using this exact same system. The village of Cornwall recently moved to this system after a lot of issues with their phone lines. The town of Walkill Court, which is the 2nd largest court outside of New York City, is utilizing the platform as long as they're DPW and their water and sewer, and we're slowly moving from department to department. The town of Newburgh, we've done their highway department and a couple other departments. A lot of that is based upon budgets, right? We can't do it all at once based upon budgets. We look at the phone bills, and we're able to move from department to department, but we slowly make those modifications. The village of Maybrook is yet another one. So we have a lot of villages that are using the platform. We have hundreds of clients that use the platform today.
Yeah,
With your system, we still have to use Frontier and all those other companies?
Only for some of the services, so for like alarm lines, and in this case, the PD lines, which are most critical today, you would still have their services. But the delivery, the medium from which we're connecting, we'd actually be using the backbone of Spectrum on their coax system. So eliminate the copper that's been out on the poles for 50+ years and using a newer medium of Spectrum today.
Is that internet-based?
It is.
You're gonna be impacted.
It'd just be nice to have voicemail, wouldn't it? Our police department has no voicemail, so it'd be a nice step forward.
So you'd be happy with an answering machine, really, at this point.
No, it's just, I think it's something that's well overdue, for at least for the police department. Our system's so antiquated. It's embarrassing. People call to speak to a detective or the chief and ask for his voicemail, and they say, I'll take your name and number and have you call him back. Sometimes they want to leave a private message, and they can't do that.
You're still working at the final numbers.
Yeah, we have a couple, I think water was.
Water got added a little bit later, so
Yes.
I did a site inspection, but I haven't met with Mr. Finnegan.
Yes.
Yeah, he was out the day that I stopped by. And I spoke with the chief as far as the terms of the recording equipment. I believe it's a lease through Goose Town Communications, but we haven't been able to track down that specific invoice yet.
Okay.
There's a Goose Town invoice, but it's for video monitoring. It was the one that I received.
I thought that's what
Last I spoke to him, I can find it, I just didn't look for it because I thought he was.
Well, I
Okay.
didn't want to bother you until I had exhausted.
Yeah,
other-
I have it in my filing cabinet, I
Okay.
can pull it up tomorrow.
Okay, so you could forward that to,
We should have some just discussions of just to see if there's some changes that we can make that might benefit overall.
well, we need to have you sit down with Chris Finnegan from JCO, and sewer and water operators, to see what they're requiring.
Yep.
Ideally, I think we'd like to have, with the exception of the police department, of course, all calls come into Village Hall. And then,
Just off topic, what Art Jeffries has been suggesting.
with the
Cell
towers,
services,
the
towers.
cyber, I don't know if
Because
you.
right now they're landlines and they go down all the time.
Yeah, we have a problem with this, and I think that you were.
You spoke to that, yeah.
spoke about
There's two things that, because today we have the ability to use that spectrum medium to make the connection. We do have an option, should you have good cell service, to be an alternate. And so that if, for some reason, we've got the poles that are literally down, but the cell towers are still up, and you're paying for that ability to have it at one of the sites or all the sites, it's seamless. So there's no basically changeover from, you can lose the call for about 10 seconds, and it'll actually transfer directly over.
Can we
So you
have you
can
as
keep-
the primary? And
You
just get rid
typically
of-
wouldn't have it as a primary because the connectivity with Spectrum is a little bit better than you would have latency and such, and it's less expensive, unless you have a really good unlimited plan on your data. So, typically we see that as a backup only. But it is very seamless in that it will use it in our office ourselves, and you can unplug and watch it move over while you're on the call. It is an insurance policy. It does impact the overall investment for the connectivity to the 4G service, whether it's Verizon or T-Mobile, whoever you use, somewhere in that like $69.95 a month range per location, wherever you put it on. But it certainly is possible, and it's something that can be added at any time.
Right, so how long until we get your final proposal? After we,
We've got to go to the chief.
exhausted everything with the chief and Chris Finnegan.
A week after we get the final numbers from, the final specs of what we put
Okay.
together.
Very, very short turnaround.
I mean, right now, the service that we have, and one of the project overviews, our current Iwatsu, did I say that correctly? System is manufacturer discontinued for many years, that's what, so if our phones go down, we're in trouble. Could be fixed, but it'll take a while, I guess. He's happy with just voicemail. And we don't have to pay AT&T anymore.
The way it looks, we don't have to pay AT&T anymore.
Do you know why we would be paying AT&T?
Probably initially at one time, there was a time where you had to kind of choose your long-distance carrier, if you remember many years ago. And when you move to a Frontier plan that included long distance, there's no reason for AT&T to raise their voice and say, stop paying me.
Yep.
So potentially you've been paying that bill for some time when you may not need it to.
We can make that call tomorrow.
Well, not yet. Oh, yeah, we could make that phone call tomorrow. AT&T, we don't need it.
Just so you understand, AT&T duplicates a lot of long distance that you have Frontier, but not every single line is like it's covering lines that I haven't been able to identify. AT&T, remember they emailed you
Yeah.
that list? I've been going through it, I haven't been able to identify the purpose of every line, so I would
That's the
I would hold off on canceling that until we identify every single line on there. But
So hold off on that call.
80% of them were duplicated.
Got a lot of lines, I think, for water panels and alarms, those types
Yes.
that we just, difficult to identify, so when we